Hey, welcome to the Ace Podcast. We are back, and I have a special guest today from the AFC East Champs. All right, and you guys are lucky to have somebody like this step into the seat, and hopefully I can get some good information from you without getting too deep, because I want you guys to go get the big chip at the end. So we got Tyler Pratt. Tyler, how you doing today, brother?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super stoked that you are able to make it. I know you guys are busy. You're in camp, and the NFL world is a full go right now. So, what now, Tyler? Could you just explain to us what your position is with the Bills?
Actually, this past spring, I was promoted to our West Coast area scout. So, in short, my job is to evaluate the college players, everybody from Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, basically all the schools out west, and just try to find any college players that I can, and then bring them to my bosses, and then kind of go from there and see if anyone's worth bringing into the team.
That's one of the coolest things I've learned about playing college ball. Well, let me tell you this story. So I'm not going to say any names, but I actually ran into him a little while ago. So I played at a small school, LaSalle University, right?
Mhm.
And I went to Temple's Pro Day, and I'm trying to bust my tail. Granted, I ran like a 4.7. The wind was blowing hard my way and all that good stuff, but I thought I was a pretty good player. So I'm going in there super excited. I see the scouts. I'm like shaking everybody's hand, trying to give them my DVD, or it might have been VHS at the time, DVD or
Oh, wow.
VHS.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Bernard Abrams. I would love to, have an opportunity to work out for you guys." He said, "What school did you go to?" I said, LaSalle University. He said, "Isn't that a D3 school?" I said, "No, it's FCS." He's like, "Yeah, that's D3." He's like,
Oh
they don't
man.
play anybody." Dude, you talking about hurt? You talking about hurt?
Right, right. On the
So
biggest day of your career.
on the I'm gonna get a
Mhm.
shot. Mind you,
Right.
I did pretty well. I was offensive player of the year my senior year. I'm gonna
Okay.
get a shot. That's all I needed.
Right. Of course.
So, but anyway, again, thanks again for sitting down and taking this time, and that thanks for explaining what a scout is. I know a lot of people hear the word scout in front office, and you guys have pretty much the most important job in the organization. And it's would you say it's like a high pressure position, or?
Um, I think there are times it can be when, you're bringing somebody to your bosses that, you say is one of the best either 90 or 53 man players that, are going to make your team. I think there's some pressure to that. But at the same time, you're putting the work in throughout the year of background evaluation, like getting to know this player on and off the field. So I think when you do that, there is pressure, but there's also a confidence with what you do because, like I said, you put the work in over time. So and you're confident in this player if he's going to be able to make your team or not.
So, what would you say? Like, how do you measure success as a scout?
Um, Personally, I would say it's a team thing because you're bringing in guys, you're bringing in competition, whether it's the starting quarterback or the 90th man on the roster going into camp. Because every player, as cliche as it is, I think every player does matter because these are the guys that are getting reps in practice. These are the guys that are going against the ones, the twos, the threes. So throughout all the camp, like these guys are getting reps or either performing themselves or giving starters breaks to rest up for week one and so on. So I think there's so much team success involved with what I do that's kind of where I look at it as the team's doing well, then I can say I feel as I'm doing a good job too.
Right, right. Now, without names, obviously, did you ever have that one guy you were like so gang gung ho about, like, yeah, this is going to be a dude, and then it just not work out? And can you
Oh
tell
yeah,
us a
for
little bit
sure.
about that?
Yeah, for
You don't
sure.
don't give us any names or
Yeah,
any
no
details.
names. Yeah, no names, but there are guys that you watch every year, and you're almost like promising like this guy's going to be a stud. He's going to be this. He's going to be that, and then there are so many other underlying factors that play a role in it, whether it's off-field stuff, maybe
Mm.
system fit, or maybe he just went to the wrong team, the wrong city, that it just doesn't work out, and you want to I know part of our job is to look back and find out why it didn't work. So
Right.
that's where you look, is you try to get better, is to look, why didn't this work? Like, go back and watch film, like, what did I miss? Watch pro tape, like, what's he doing different? Has anything changed? Is it schematics? Is it, you know, anything position specific? So that's kind of where you go back and look. But I've probably had more misses than hits.
I can imagine that's pretty much the life of a scout, having more misses, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just like, but when you do get the right guys, it's game changing. It's, you're changing literally an organization. So I'm sure that's been rewarding for you when you do have those guys that hit. So if you could pick out a difference now, you came from Kutztown University, correct?
Right. Yep. Kutztown.
Now, that's a beautiful thing, man. I'm always, not to say that you were an underdog with, your abilities and stuff like that, but that's
Yeah.
pretty much, an underdog. You came from a small
Right.
school. A lot of times, you have to have a, big school on your resume, whether you're a player or a scout or front office. Tell me a little bit about how you were able to make the move into the pros.
So like you said, I went to Kutztown. I played 4 years at Kutztown. And we had a tackle that year who got drafted by the Chicago Bears, Jordan Morgan,
Right.
Philly kid. Yep.
Yeah.
So we would have scouts come in and out of practice every day. So I kind of got to talk to them and just see what they did, and it kind of intrigued me. So from there, I just tried to get in the building of an NFL team, and I was able to get an internship in broadcasting the spring of my senior year at Kutztown. So it was with the Bills that I did that. So I was up here, and once I got up here, it was just a matter of seeing how the building worked, meeting different people, and kind of seeing where that internship would lead. And I got pretty lucky in meeting Kevin Meegan, Casey Whittle, who's with the Eagles now. Jason Barbarino was able to get a training camp operations internship.
Mm.
So from there, I did the training camp internship for a year, came back, did the same internship another year. And then once that internship ended, they asked me to stay on as it was like a coaching, operations, and scouting intern. So from there, it kind of rolled through the season into a scouting internship. And then, long story short, went through the years of scouting intern and ended up getting hired full time after that.
That's phenomenal, man. A lot of people don't really understand that you have to do a lot of work in getting into the position, and to get the opportunity, you have to like almost take a step back. Fortunately, you were able to do it when you were younger, coming right out. But a lot of times you got to take that servant job where you're doing everything for everybody and kind of helping and learning. That's the key. You have to pretty much pick up and learn everything you can from everybody. So was there anyone that kind of that you looked at and you were like, man, I really want to be like this guy?
Yeah. So one of the stories that stuck with me as an intern was when Brandon Bean and Coach McDermott and everybody got hired. Our assistant GM, Joe Shane, was talking to the interns. There were probably 6 or 7 of us, and he was telling us a story how he had the same internship we did in Carolina back in, this might have been 2000, 2001, and his boss was actually Brandon Bean. And as an intern, he would fill the coffee every day for their department, and they had somebody in their department who wanted their coffee at like 5 a.m. or something. And one morning, Joe didn't have the coffee at 5 a.m., so Joe kind of made it his thing that he's going to beat everybody in the building, have the coffee ready, and have his day rolling before anybody's in there. So then I kind of just took that in stride and kind of started to do the same thing, whether it was filling up the assistant to the head coach's fridge, Matt Warswick, or the coffee deal with Joe. Actually, as ironic as it is, was just making sure the coffee set up for Joe in the morning. So it was kind of a cool story, and I kind of tried to take that myself and kind of emulate the same thing and roll with that, which it kind of got me in the building early, got me around different people, and kind of opened a few doors that maybe if I had not done that, those doors wouldn't have opened.
That's awesome. Now, what do you think? What do you think the difference between pro scouting and college scouting is? I obviously, you're recruiting in college, and these are guys that are going into, like, trying to get into college. But NFL guys are a little bit different. So, what would you say the biggest difference is between NFL and college recruiting?
I think for the NFL, it's you're seeing the same level of competition. Whereas college, it's more projection because you may be watching a player at Alabama that's playing against somebody, from North Alabama, maybe week 1 or week 2. So whether it's a player at Alabama or the player at North Alabama, it's more of a projection. Like, okay, player A is doing this, but when he gets to the NFL, it's against player X. So how is he going to perform against player X in the NFL? Because you've only watched him against player A at North Alabama or Alabama. So for college, it's more of a projection, which I enjoy because there's a little risk reward in that, like we talked about earlier with hits and misses. So, and it kind of comes with pro too, because there's still some projection, whether it's schematics, wherever the player may be, whatever his path may be, you may be able to get a hold of him. And like we have some great coaches here who have taken some projects and turned them into players. So I think that's a cool aspect in pro scouting too.
Yeah, I mean, just as you say that, it really makes you think, when guys get drafted and they get drafted really high, but they go to a team that might not just necessarily be in a good position to develop them, then those guys don't pan out. And people always get on the player, but it's really, it's a real combination of, the player, the environment of the team or organization, and the coaching and the development. So that makes a lot of sense. So if you were to say that, there's one thing that really stands out as a scout, like what can give you the upper hand in terms of, like, I think all the guys that I've watched or look up to, they all have this. Is there something in particular that you think?
That's a good question. I would say, as cliche as it is too, I would say probably work ethic. Because there's always so much you can do as a scout, whether it's film, background, trying to talk to different sources, and nowadays too, social media, everything's out there. So it's things like that. Whereas, with the work ethic, like I said, just using your resources with it. I think that's probably the main thing, is that everyone that I've worked under or I look up to as a mentor, it's the work ethic. And then on top of that, it's just the different ways they work, whether it's film, whether it's analytics, whether it's background, things like that, just, taking advantage of the different resources and then, putting the work in behind it.
And man, I tell you what, analytics has played, it's just every year it's become bigger and bigger role, because now you're starting to play with almost the science behind, I don't know, would you call that science or the math behind it? But it's given a different perspective on each player, because now you're like, all right, does this guy always come through in the fourth quarter? And then you can like find out the statistics of him in the fourth quarter,
right,
which is pretty crazy. So now another big question here, right? So if you were to go back and you were to go as a player, right? Or if you were looking at yourself as a player, what would you say would be the number one thing that you has to work on to catch the eye? Now, obviously, it's always the eye-popping stats, the 40, you run a 4.3, you're 6'6", whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But if you're not that guy, what's the eye-catching thing for scouts?
Me personally, if I was evaluating myself, I'd take one look at me and put a big X over my name. No, that would be done.
Scratch him off.
I would be done. Yeah. But then I guess you could say in the same sentence, people like me is, or I should say players like me that have been starters and have played and have had success despite size, speed, things like that. I think there's something to be said for those players too. Because you always see the stats. Like I think the Super Bowl, there were, like, I don't want to mess it up, but I think there were like 30 players that were either undrafted or a number like that on the roster. So like guys always make it, and I think that comes with the type of person they are. So that goes hand in hand with doing your research on players. Like I think some people just kind of have it in them that they're going to find a way, and I think those are kind of the guys that you would call them like locker room guys, that guys you want to build around or guys you want to build with, because those are the guys that are going to keep your locker room together. They're going to do the things nobody sees. They're going to mentor guys. They're going to push guys they may be guys at the end of the roster, but they're going to push the guys above them, who are in turn going to push the other guys. So I think that there is something to be said for for guys, that may not have the height, weight, speed that you're looking for.
That's beautiful. That's the intangibles that, coaches always
Right.
tell guys they think it's cliche, but it's really intangibles that
For sure.
that translate no matter what.
For
If
sure.
you're a leader or if you have, the knack for the big play, things like that,
Mhm.
that's always something that young guys have to make sure they pay attention to.
Yeah.
So, all right, now, I have to take you into my world a little bit, which is
Mhm.
your world too, but let's talk about quarterbacks.
Mhm.
So, you guys obviously have a phenomenal quarterback, and you have somebody who has been, really highly touted and done great things for you guys. So, all right. Now, with that being said, is there a premium on arm strength or footwork or the mental side that no matter what level you play at, that coaches feel as though that they can work with?
Um, yeah, I think everything plays a factor. And I know that's kind of broad, but there are so many smart coaches in the league, and so many different coaches that value different things. One coach may value an athletic quarterback, while another one values a pocket passer, or one may value accuracy over arm strength. So I think it's important that whatever you're looking for, or whatever the coach may want, that it's communicated with people like myself or other scouts that are out on the road, that this is what we want. So when you guys are out there, put a premium on, if you want arm strength, put a premium on arm strength. If you want accuracy, put a premium on accuracy. So I think it's important that what you're looking for when you're going out. Like I said, because so many coaches are so good in so many different ways that your your job is to go find that for them, basically.
Now, what would you say? Is there a baseline? Is there a baseline skill that if you were to be able to help younger quarterbacks, on their direction towards, their aspirations of being an NFL quarterback, is there some like a baseline of qualities or things that you would say, like, you have to at least be able to do these things to be really considered?
Right. I would just start with being a student of the game, and not only understanding your playbook, but if you can. And I know at a high school level, for the little quarterback I played, like, I didn't know what the defense was doing. I didn't know fronts. I didn't know alignments. Like, I couldn't read safeties. I didn't know any of that. So I would say, just from a football knowledge standpoint, like knowing both sides of the ball, and knowing adjustments, or the why behind things. Of, if you're seeing a safety, well, if the safety's rolling down, why is the safety rolling down, and what's happening with the other side of the field? And okay, so if you're going to hit the bang eight on the backside, well, why are you going to do that? So kind of understanding the why of the mental side, because I know you train kids that may be 12, 13, 14 years old. Like, physically, it's not there yet. You don't know when
Right.
it's going to come. It could hit at 20, it could hit at 22. So I think if you have the mental side of it down, that you're already going to be a few steps ahead of guys that maybe at 14 or 15 or six. They are 6'2" and they are 200 pounds and have a rocket arm. Well, if he can't read a defense, it's going to be hard for him at 18, when you maybe getting to 18, and you may be 6 foot, 180, but you're still growing, but you can see what's going on. You know why things are happening.
I mean, that's the perfect answer, man. It's good because the guys that are listening to this are, there's going to be players at all positions, but
Mm-hmm.
quarterback is really such it's a different position in
Like
terms of,
I get in sports.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
the center of attention. So the mental aptitude has to be there. You got to get, just like you said, you have to know what all
Yeah.
21 other players are
Yeah.
doing on every
Yeah.
single play. So I really appreciate that. So those guys will learn that coming from the level that they all want to be at, right? So,
Mhm.
so are there quarterbacks that, and I don't know if you're allowed to mess around with this, but are there quarterbacks that you guys have played against that you're like, wow, that dude is physically gifted. Like he can do anything he wants to, and your most physically gifted guy just can't even match.
Yeah, for sure. I think the cool thing with what I do too is that, you guys, or whoever may be watching this, can do it at home too. It's like we all watch football on Sundays, Saturdays, Monday night. Like, I think it's that everybody kind of sees the same thing. It's just with
It's
what
true.
I do. With what I do, I may just see it 1,000 more times than a fan sitting at home. So, like, I think people are a lot closer to being able to see it. It's just, like I said, I may do it 1,000 more times with 1,000 other quarterbacks. So
Right.
my rankings of, this guy has a rocket arm, or this guy has an average arm, like it may be a lot deeper or longer than, say somebody who's just watching Monday Night Football every week.
So now, are you, and as a scout, when you watch, college players, is it important to be able to, see whether it's like, I know this is a little bit of a different question here, but is it important to see it from a sky view, or is it more better to see it like from the field? Are you allowed? I don't even know if you're allowed to, but is it better to see it from the field view? Because there's a different feel, and
Yeah.
there's a different environment in which you can
Mhm.
learn things about guys when you're a little bit closer. So
Yeah, 100%. I honestly, like, that's part of our evaluation, or the background is like getting down there and, getting up on guys, and whether it's looking at, looking them in the eye and seeing how they look, because, just as a human interaction, you can see how people look, you can get a feel for them. So there's that aspect of it, like the live action of a game. Like, it's pretty cool to see, 10, 20 yards away, because you can see a lot of emotion, you can feel it. But then
mhm.
there's also a lot that goes into being up in the box too, of being able to look over all 22 players, and, seeing things that you may not see down on the field, because, obviously all the distractions with the sideline, the players, and everything like that. So I think there's a benefit to both. But to pick one, I have to say both.
That's cool. Well, this is awesome, man. This is
Of
a
course, yeah.
inside look at, what it takes to be an NFL scout, and what guys should be working on to become that best player so that they can give themselves an opportunity. We know
For
not
sure.
everybody watching this is going to make it to the league, but it might change the perspective of some kid that's watching, or some coach that's even trying to develop their guys. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys are super busy. If there's ever anything that I could, be able to share with you in terms of,
Hmm.
what I see as a quarterback guy,
No doubt, yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot of stuff but I would love to bounce those things off the
Of
wall
course.
with you,
Yeah,
man.
of course. Yeah.
All
I don't
right,
have all the answers, so yeah, for sure.
my man. All right. So Tyler Pratt, Buffalo Bills scout, and we are wrapping it up for Ace Podcast. Thank you.